Okay, so good afternoon, guys, and welcome. I'm going to first off start by letting everyone introduce themselves. So we'll start with yourself, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm from Youth Work Ireland, Cavan Monaghan, and I work on the Youth Information Project.
And Con.
Hello, my name is Con Cullen. I'm from Youth Work Ireland, Cavan Monaghan, and work on the Bounce Back Youth Service Project.
And Shirley.
Hi, I'm Shirley. I'm the chairperson of Youth Work Ireland, Cavan Monaghan. I'm also on the Youth Work Ireland National Board, and I'm a lecturer in the Youth Work and Social Care courses in TU Dublin, Blanchardstown campus.
And for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Caelan, and I am the manager of Youth Work Ireland, Cavan Monaghan. So it's a real Cavan Monaghan affair today altogether. Right, today's stream, we're mostly going to focus on SUSI, but we're also going to move on to talk about the announcement from the Cabinet Minister for Education, Joe McHugh, that was released just over half an hour ago now. But we're going to start with SUSI. Melissa, I know that this is an area of speciality for yourself. So do you want to start by telling us, what is SUSI? Joe McHugh mentioned it earlier during his announcement. We hear about it all the time. What is it and who is it for?
Okay, so SUSI is not your auntie or anything like that. SUSI is Student Universal Support Ireland. So it's the main financial support for students in Ireland that are going to do full-time approved courses. And it can be here in Ireland or it could be in the UK or abroad. But the student is based in Ireland. So it's kind of in two parts. One is you can apply for the SUSI grant, but if you get it, you may get a maintenance grant, which is an amount of money that you will get to kind of keep you going for your living. And then there's another part of it which will help towards the contribution fees. So there's fees that you pay at the start of the year to Institute of Technologies or universities, which is usually around €3,000. So you may get help with that as well. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, and we've got a number of questions relating to it, all coming in from young people. The first one says, I'm thinking of going to college in September, but I'm not sure yet, and I won't know what college I'm going to until September. Should I wait until September to apply?
No, you shouldn't wait to apply. There's a bit of a misconception going around in the last few years, and it's probably going around at the moment because everything is so uncertain. But the SUSI application opened there on the 23rd, and you should apply now. SUSI knows that you don't know what college you're necessarily going to. Same with CAO, it knows that you haven't definitely picked your college course yet. So you should apply now and get it over and done with, because there's a couple of documents and different bits and pieces that you're going to need to get in place, and it takes time for the SUSI to process it. So what will happen is you'll get to the point where in the application where SUSI will say like you're 99% pre-approved on this whole thing, and then when we know what college you're going to, you're fully successful. So you'll kind of be sitting at home happy in the knowledge that you are actually eligible for the SUSI grant. So the sooner you get it done, the better. And if you wait, and you wait till September, you wait till October, you're going to be put kind of at the bottom of the list, and it's going to take time to get it, and then you might end up getting your grant till later. So the sooner you get your application in, the quicker you will get your grant when it comes to September or October.
Brilliant. So get it in now, whether you're sure or not is the message. And Melissa, you mentioned documents. What documents do I need to get ready for SUSI, someone asks?
Okay, so your SUSI application, it is done online, okay? So it's not in paper form, you do it online. But when that's processed, SUSI gets back to you and says, okay, we need some documents off you now. So you don't have to send them until SUSI asks you for them. So the types of things that they're looking for is around income. So it might be that your parents and your income is being assessed. So your parents might have to get, if they're employed, they might start fishing out their P60s, their P45s. If you're self-employed or you're a farmer, you have to get your accounts ready. And I know from years gone by, people might say, well, this is not the time of year we actually get our accounts done. You need to get them done in order to process this SUSI. And I forgot to say, which is important, all the income is based on 2019. So it's your 2019 income that's getting assessed. If you're on a social welfare payment, or your parents are on a social welfare payment, they just need to know in 2019 what their payment was, how much they were getting every week, and how many weeks of the year did they get it. So did they get it for the 52 weeks of the year, or were they on illness benefit for 12 weeks in the year? That kind of stuff they need to know. They don't need to get that bit in paper form, because SUSI actually contacts the Department of Social Protection on your behalf, which you consent to by doing the form, and they'll find that out. But you need to kind of just know that piece to fill it in online.
Okay, excellent. Someone else has asked, just very simply, I've applied for SUSI, but now I can't remember my login details and I can't access my account. Mm-hmm. How did they get around that?
Okay, so when you're applying for SUSI, you go on to grantsonline.ie first, and you have to register, and you have to think up a username and a password, and then you have to put in an email address. And you know yourself, you're just setting it up and you're not really thinking about it. But what I would say to you is, you need to get a piece of paper or write it down on your phone, what your username is, what your password is, and use an email address that you actually look at, because that's how SUSI contacts you. They send you notifications of how your process is going, how your application is going. In the case of that young person, they're just going to have to ring SUSI. There's no getting around it. So they need to pick up the phone, and I know some people don't like doing that, but that's what they have to do. Pick up the phone and ring them. They can send SUSI an email. It's just they mightn't get an answer back straight away. But if you ring SUSI straight away, you will get through to somebody, and they will try to open your account up again.
And Melissa, I know we couldn't get live today with internet connection and whatever else. Is that a number that we can post in the bio beneath this video?
Yeah. So I have the number here and the email, and we'll put that in the bio afterwards.
Brilliant. Okay, so it's going to be down there underneath the video once this goes up. And finally, on SUSI, I'm doing my Leaving Cert, but I don't live with my parents. Can I just leave them out of the application when I'm talking about the income in my house?
Okay, so this has come up before, and it's a really good, something to think about. So they're not living with their parents anymore. And what happens with SUSI is there's 3 types of applicants. Okay, so there's a dependent applicant who's under 23. So anybody who's under 23 and lives with their parents, that's what they're considered as, a dependent applicant. If you're over 23 and you still live with your parents, you're considered a mature applicant. And if you're over 23 and you don't live with your parents anymore, you're independent. So you have to wait to 23, So what happens there is, if this person is under 23 and they're not living with their parents anymore, that can be for loads of different reasons. They might live with their grandparents for some reason. They might be living with somebody else. Their parents may have passed away. You could also have that they're just estranged from their parents. So you can actually go onto the SUSI website, and it actually goes through that, the different scenarios. But the main thing I would say out of it is that what you have to do is you still apply. One of the questions is, what type of applicant are you? Basically, if you're under 23, you're a dependent applicant. So you need to tick that box. Even though in your head you're going, I'm not. On this form, you are. So you press that, and then there will be further on in the application, it will give you the chance to say if your parents are deceased, if you're estranged from your parents, different scenarios. If you're fostered, you still put it in as dependent, but you will be putting in your application, when it gets to your parents' income, there'll be a scroll down thing for all of these options. And if it's fostering, you can put that in, and the foster parents' income won't be considered. Okay, so The point is still to go with the dependent ticking, and then you can further explain, even if you can't find those things, at the very end of the SUSI form, there's a thing saying, do you want to write anything else? Do you want just write anything? So you can, in there, if you can't explain you can explain your situation there, and that will be dealt with. Sometimes they might come back to you and they might look for a bit further detail. There might be a letter from a solicitor, something like that, to kind of verify what's happening. But if you do have a legal guardian that's not your parents, so just say, for example, you are living with granny and granddad and they are legally your guardian, their income will be assessed.
Okay. Shirley, you had your hand up there. Was there something else you wanted to come in on?
Yeah, I was just thinking while Melissa was answering that with regards to it being the 2019 application. So even if you're not living with your parents now, perhaps you were during that period, and that's the one that's considered with regard to your application this year.
No, that's a very good point. And just before we're about to move on from SUSI and discuss the minister's announcement, but something that was covered within that announcement today was in relation to SUSI fees, SUSI getting fees as well, and then the extension of that for an extra year. So maybe Con, do you want to sort of explain a little bit on that and what that means?
So I suppose previously, before with SUSI, if you sat a year or you completed a year, you weren't allowed to claim again for that year. So say in college, if you've done a 4-year degree, if you resat first year, you wouldn't be able to get the payment of SUSI for. But this has changed because of change of mind, and maybe students are going to question their marks from school. So that's changed. So now it will pay you. SUSI will fund you for 2 of the same years.
And Melissa, there's obviously, this is done in light of COVID-19 and the fact that young people may be looking for exams to be remarked. They may be looking to sit exams where they didn't have the chance to originally, and obviously that will affect their timeline. So they mentioned about not being afraid to take up your second choice course. So
yeah,
what's your insight on that?
Yeah, so basically at the press conference there, they were saying that if you were unhappy with this predicted grading, calculated grades, that you can go for, at some stage, that you can sit your Leaving Cert exam. But the problem is that they don't know when that is yet. So, and until it's safe to do so, they won't be doing that. So what you could do was, he was advising, you could still go ahead and go for your second choice in college, and then the year later, after you've done the exam and you've gotten the points, then you could continue. You could go and do your first choice if you met the criteria. So it's a good option there for young people to kind of not have to press pause, I suppose, on their education. So it's a good option that they're talking about. A lot of stuff has to be fleshed out. And we're only hearing this in the last half an hour or so, but that was indicated in it. So, and the point with SUSI is, usually to continue to get the SUSI grant, you have to keep going up the ladder. You have to keep progressing. So you can't do the same level of course and get a grant for the same year. So if you did first year and normally if you dropped out, you wouldn't get the grant for first year of a different course again. It wouldn't kick in till second year. But as Con was saying, they're making an exemption for that you could do 1 year of one course and then skip over to a new course because you've gotten your new exam results.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be a big relief for a lot of young people to have that sort of guarantee. Shirley, last but not least, the final word on SUSI.
Yeah, it's just that it's a very uncertain time for all of our Leaving Cert students at the moment, and anybody considering going to college and what's going to happen, etc. So that, while nothing can be done to ease that as such, there has been certain considerations with regards to that from the Department of Education. So they've considered the SUSI applications and the fact that if due to whatever circumstance at the moment you can't uptake your first course and you decide to go for your second, that you have recourse within that. And that's really important, I suppose, at this time for students to bear in mind and see how that pans out. And it's also, I suppose, even though things are the way they are now, we're coming close to understanding what's going to happen with regards to the Leaving Cert, and for students to bear in mind that the CAO Change of Mind facility is open until the 1st of July, and perhaps that's something to keep in mind as well, that if they want to rethink their college courses and what's happening, that maybe they'll look around that. And I'm sure their teachers are available for advice and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is SUSI. I'm sure it'll come back up over the next few weeks. Just on that, beneath this video as well, you'll see the link to the spinout.ie website where there's a lot of information available. And I know that they have, in partnership with Youth of Ireland Crosscare, launched the new Youth Information live chat. Melissa, do you want to just give us very quickly the hours of the week that is available?
It's Monday to Friday from 4 to 8 p.m.
And that's a place you can leave your questions even outside those hours, and a qualified youth information worker will get back to you the next day when they come back on. Con, you have your hand up physically, very traditional. Go on ahead.
I suppose what I was just going to say, I know it's very strange times out there for young people, but just act the way you would. You know, if you really want to go for a course, apply for that course and apply for SUSI. Things will work themselves out, but don't change your course of plan because of this. Keep heading the way you wanted to head, and you'll get there. So don't do anything different than you would be. Sorry.
No, thank you all, guys. We're going to play a short clip from the Minister's press release earlier. So I invite you to listen in.
Unfortunately, there is now compelling advice that makes proceeding with a return to school and holding exams in July and August impossible. I have come to this conclusion with a heavy heart, but in the final analysis, the interest of the students must come first, especially their physical and mental health. The Leaving Cert is important, but it's life that matters. Throughout this time, we have also been working on a Plan C as a contingency, and it is this that I brought to Cabinet this morning for approval. This will see the Leaving Cert postponed to a later date when it will be safe to hold the exams. In the meantime, students can opt to receive calculated grades. Despite the views of some, there is no simple solution to this issue. These calculated grades will not be examinations as defined by legislation, and as such, the State Examinations Commission cannot be involved in the process. This has resulted in the need for the design of a special unit within my Department of Education to undertake this work. This is how it will work in practice. Teachers will be asked to provide a professional judgment of each student's attainment, which will be subjected to a rigorous in-school process to ensure fairness.
So that's just the first stage there, and I know that the conference obviously went on for another few moments, and then much more was discussed when the journalist present started to ask questions. But just on Minister McHugh's announcement today, initial reactions. We'll go to Shirley first.
It's hard to say, to be honest, what initial reactions could be, because I think we're still missing some valuable detail around what's going to happen, and things aren't as clear as what you might hope them to be, especially at this stage of the year. With the way COVID is at the moment, exam halls are not going to be an ideal situation, so at least there's options available for young people that they can take the calculated grades, which are subject to, I suppose, some form of measure of ensuring equity and fairness for those students. And they also have the opportunity to sit exams whenever that may be as well. So depends on whether they've used all of this time at home to study and think that they'll improve their opportunities or whatever. But nevertheless, it's a troubling time, I suppose, for anybody going through that procedure at the moment. And that's why it's important that the staff are there to help and to answer questions and support where possible, to look for don't be afraid to ask questions and ask the people who should know. Ask teachers, ask your youth workers, ask people and find out as much as you can. But don't despair because of the peculiar situation we're in. I suppose there's a few options open to students that wouldn't ordinarily be open. So it may work out to be something that isn't quite as bad as it might seem at the moment.
Yeah, and some of the language that was used during that press conference, Melissa, was around that education in Ireland must be as fair as possible and as evenly available as possible. And Minister McHugh talks about the crisis widening the gap. But one phrase he does use at the start of that clip that we played there was the interest of students must come first. So surely it's encouraging to hear the government using language like that.
Yeah, I think like it is encouraging, and for a lot of students today there's mixed feelings, and that has to be acknowledged as well, that everybody's actually going to have their own personal view on what this means for them. Some people are going to be enormously relieved just by the fact that a decision is made, you know, because if they've been left up in the air for so long. But then there's, you know, there'll be other people who are not happy with it, and it's trying to come to terms now with this is the procedure. And I suppose to say that at least there is options in it, that they can go and look and see are they happy with the calculated grades, or then at a later stage if they want to maybe sit the exams at a later stage. So the options are there, but it's, I know I've family, and then I have the young people that I know in the youth centre that are kind of waiting around to hear this. So at least they're getting information, because it's very hard to be at home thinking I still have to keep studying. A lot of them could be burnt out at this stage, you know, so that's been taken away from them now, that the pressure has been taken off them, which is a relief. Whether it's good news for everybody, we need to let the dust settle and see how things pan out.
Yeah, and I've no doubt that more information will sort of come available. I know that even as we speak, the technical briefing is taking place with ministers and junior ministers within the department. Con, one of the words that keeps getting used is fairness. Fairness, fairness, fairness. It needs to be fair. But then at the beginning of the conference, Minister McHugh talks about no perfect solution. Has he come up with the fairest solution?
I suppose he has, because otherwise the education system would be stagnant. The problem is, if exams weren't until later on in the year, it would affect the whole academic year. Of course, you know, this is not going to suit everybody, but I think this is the most equitable for everyone. If you look at another way, would it be fair to send young people in to do exams with COVID still around and risk their lives? If they're going to do the exams, they could be nervous, they wouldn't act up. So this is basically a level playing field for everybody. That's the way I see it. Is it fair and the right way to do? No, of course not. Because these young people have been in this cycle for 3 years about the mocks and the Leaving Cert, but this is the most equitable for them, I think.
And sorry, Melissa, go on ahead.
I was just going to say that in case some people haven't heard what the minister said in terms of what the process will be, it's just that he's saying that we go to the teacher first, and it's not just going to be one thing. It's not going to be just the mocks, or it's not going to be last year's, you know, they're going to take a whole lot into consideration. So it's not going to be, if young people are worried, oh God, you know, I did really bad in the mocks, you know, that's not going to be what your result is. They're going to combine a lot of different things and what the teacher knows your capabilities are. So there's going to be a good mixture there. And it's going to go to, they're going to talk to colleagues about the teachers are, and then it will go to the principal. And after that, it's going to go to the department, where the department are actually setting up a whole new section that hasn't been there before, that are going to independently verify the grades. So they're trying to make it as fair as possible in that way, so that no teacher can hopefully downgrade you or upgrade everybody in the whole system. It has to be fair among the whole school as well. If you're not just thinking about it as one student, it has to go nationwide. So they're trying, is what I would say.
Yeah, no, I think that's fairly clear. And I think that they are, as Con says, making the best of an imperfect situation. One of the other phrases that was used earlier on in the conference was just around opting to receive calculated grades. And I know that for a lot of people, the option might seem a little bit more obvious. So earlier I was contacted by a host family who have a foreign exchange student staying with them, and they were saying at least this solution or some solution may mean that this child is able to go back, this young person is able to go back to be with their family now, and be out of limbo. So surely that's a positive in itself in terms of young people's mental health. I know that last night, Dr. Niall Muldoon, who's the Ombudsman for Children, was on RTE News and would have spoken about how so many young people and even families have psychologically sort of paced themselves for June. And now, obviously, as of the last couple of days, they've been wondering, is it going to be June? Is it going to be August? Is it going to be December? At least now we have some sort of shape on that. So what thoughts on that, I suppose?
I suppose sorry, Shirley, but from my perspective, yeah, you would have a lot of young people who are anxious. The uncertainty is usually worse than the outcome. So the uncertainty about what was going to happen, and now there's a finality to it. So I suppose they can move on and accept that, and if they want to, they can plan their future now. I suppose that's what it ends the uncertainty for me. Obviously, some people are not going to be happy, and they can seek redress later on. But for most people, it ends the uncertainty.
Yeah, and Shirley?
Yeah, I think that's similar as well. Change is never something that's easily accepted. So when you've spent all of your school life planning towards something, and this was the culmination, you've been robbed of that end of year and finishing with all of your classmates, and things have been very difficult for this stage of their studies so far. But it's just to, I suppose, number one, there's some form of an exit plan, so at least that ends the questions and the uncertainty for some. And given the nature of the situation, it was difficult to come up with any form of a solution. So it's good that the solution has some form of redress in it, that there are some options and there are a few different things that students can consider of what to do. But also just that it's accepting that and seeing what you can do within the rest of what's within your power to do. So now we know what's going to happen. At least we have some form of an idea of how we're going to move forward and what's going to happen. So young people have a lot of decisions still to make, I would imagine, and a lot of thinking to do about what's going to happen. But hopefully the anxiety will be taken away from that just a little, in terms of having some form of an umbrella about what that's going to be and what decisions they actually have to make. But it's good that there's options. I think options are always important, that if one solution doesn't suit you, then perhaps there's another solution possible. And that even after that, if you're still not happy, there's still forms of redress that you can appeal and such like. So it's important that that's kept in mind.
Yeah, and I go on ahead, Melissa, because we're going to finish up there.
Just as Shirley was saying, options, like every year when the Leaving Cert results come out, our strong messaging in the youth service is there is options beyond the Leaving Cert. There's lots of different routes into education, and although it's very important, there is other ways and other routes. And you know, the time has gone past of you pick one career for your whole life and you're stuck with it. You know, you have loads of options of changing and moving around and trying different things, maybe going to Monaghan Institute or Cavan Institute and doing a course for 1 or 2 years and then considering doing a longer course or going into work. So there is options, and there's always a route to get you where you want to go. It might just take a little bit longer, and that's okay because you're young.
Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with the scenic route. I would agree. Okay, I think we're going to aim to finish up there. What I would say is, if anyone does have any outstanding questions, then please let us know. We'll obviously be back next week to look at what young people have been searching in Ireland over the next 7 days. But Also, over the next 7 days, Youth Work Ireland are available on all social media channels. And from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., you can speak to a qualified youth worker instantly, or you can visit spinout.ie, check the resources there, which obviously would pertain to the SUSI stuff, and you can also contact the Youth Information Service on spinout.ie. Melissa.
Yeah, I forgot to say earlier that myself and Olivia in the Youth Information Project are offering help with the SUSI grant. So if you want to ring us, or I'm also doing Zoom calls if you want to do that I can literally go through the form with you online. I can do that as well. So what we'll do at the end as well, we'll put the poster at the bottom that myself and Olivia can be contacted with either just information or form fill-in. We can do over the phone or by Zoom. There it is.
Yeah. And people who want to check out our social media will be able to find this poster, which I now have up on the screen as well. So, well, I think it's up on the screen, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, guys, we are going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and I will see you bright and early on Monday. All the best.